Hi everybody, it's Andrea. Thanks for stopping by my channel. This is a video about how to use texture paste to add dimension and strength to your projects. I prefer the opaque matte, but there are so many different finishes and textures that you can find and even make your own if you're so inclined. Now, when you get a jar of this, though, you do have to realize that you're going to have to use it up fairly soon because it will eventually dry out. But the other thing to know is that less is more. We're going to learn about that in this video. Less is definitely more. And these are just some examples of projects that I used texture paste on, just to set as an example. This document is fairly fragile, but by adding a tiny bit of texture paste to the edges, it's going to allow me to use it as an insert page and not have it tear when somebody is actually turning it. It does make a little rough for somebody to actually write on the other side, but it's an option. Using the gauze, the crinkle gauze, you do have to adhere the corners of it down using a little bit of adhesive so that when you are going to smear this on, it doesn't end up in a big glob, but it does make for a really nice piece of fabric that you can add to a project. This was just a random piece of fabric. I just wanted to show you how it would look. And then glassine. Okay, we love to add glassine, and glassine bags make great tuck spots, but you do have to realize that they're very fragile and they will tear, and what you want to stick in them won't necessarily adhere. But adding texture paste to the edges, and you can see I just kind of made a little thingy here, but adding glassine to the edges is going to give it some strength and depth. And so it makes it a more usable item, and you don't have to fear that when you stick things in it that it is going to fall apart. So let me just show you a little bit about how I proceed forward with texture paste. And I'm just going to show you, I'm not going to make it really pretty. I'm just going to kind of show you what my steps are for keeping that less is more mentality. So when you choose your stencil, and you'll see I don't put my stencils, I don't line them up precisely with the page. I like it to be kind of off center and give it some kind of edging and pop to it. But when you do this, you're going to get a little bit of the texture paste on your palette, and you can see how much I have here. It's not a lot, but I'm not even going to use all that. And again, I don't like my stencils super straight. I like them kind of off to the side. All right. So when you put your texture paste down onto that page or whatever you're using, you're going to put a big glob there, and then you're going to use the palette edge. You really want to use that palette edge and scrape it. And it seems like, oh, that stencil is so fragile, but it's not. It can tolerate this if you hold it in place, and you're going to just scrape, scrape, scrape. And really what you're going to see is I didn't even use half of what I had on that palette knife. And as soon as I scrape over the top for my final wipe, I am going to lift those stencils straight up, and now I have a beautiful edge that gives some strength and some dimension and some pop. And this fragile book page isn't going to tear when we go to use it. Now, when you're using fabric, if you're ever using fabric, again, it helps to adhere it down, and I'm not going to do that here, but you're always going to do it on a flat piece of fabric. You can't do it on obviously on an edge, so that has a roughened surface. So I'm just adding a little bit here, honestly, and just to kind of show you a little bit about what it looks like when you first finish it with a piece of fabric. But you have to make sure that your fabric doesn't move and slide under the stencil when you're doing this. So then the other thing that I do want to share with this that has helped me a lot in creating colors and projects is alcohol ink, and making my texture paste look a different color by adding just one drop. A tiny bit of texture paste goes a long way, but a tiny bit of alcohol ink also goes a long way. So you can see how little I put in here, and I'm going to put one drop of alcohol ink, and then I'm going to just work with that palette knife and blend it. And you really, when you're using texture paste, you don't want, unless you do, you can try and get a really deep color, but just by nature of the type of results you're going to get, it's not going to give you deep what's the word? I can't think of it. The depth of color that you're looking for. So honestly, just think in terms of adding a hue, a touch of color. And again, you'll see here I'm scraping, 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 and I'm just adding my aged texture paste color into a book page to give it, to keep in line with that type of vintage theme that I'm going for and not make it pop out white. So that's an option for you. Texture paste is an amazing medium, and you have so many options and so many finishes that go along with it. So I really think you'll enjoy working with it, and I hope that you do while we're at our event. Have an amazing day.